I had Bronze Age Pervert on the show like 2 years ago. That was a way to introduce him. I'm looking for cutting edge underground guys, culture, media, and you are it, buddy. But let's start off. Who are you, Mr. Raw Egg Nationalist? Tell us what you can tell us.
So I'm a Twitter anon. I was a lurker for a little while, just for a short period of time, and then I decided to start posting, and I jumped on board this slightly strange sort of esoteric fitness and nutrition movement called Raw Egg Nationalism, which was about, well, it starts with eating large quantities of raw eggs, um, in the manner of Vince Gironda, the great bodybuilding guru, who is my avatar. I have the Ascended Gironda as my avatar, and I was sort of just posting for a while, and then I decided to write a cookbook because at one point in my life I was a chef for a short period of time, and I thought, what better way would there be to red pill people, I think is probably just the best way to put it, than a cookbook which mixes sort of genuine nutritional advice with also some political doctrine and sort of nutritional and lifestyle red pills. So I released this cookbook, which initially was just a free PDF. 20,000 people downloaded it. People were saying, "Oh, you should release it as a paperback." So the first thing I did was I released it as a paperback on Amazon, and then that started to sell really well. I wrote a couple of other books after that. One called 3 Lives of Golden Age Bodybuilders, which is about 3 bodybuilders from the 1950s, 1960s, and how their lives can basically provide an example for people to create not just a beautiful body, but a beautiful life. So it's sort of bodybuilding as a, not just as a pursuit in itself, but as something sort of leading to a deeper kind of as a way of life, as a way of life. Anyway, so then
well, let's talk about that for a second. First of all,
Sure.
explain to me the raw eggs part. That's not a LARP, right? This is exactly you're
No.
serious about the raw eggs. You're serious about consuming
Yes.
high amounts of protein and fat. Eggs are superfoods, and you're taking an influencer from classic bodybuilding, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So Vince Gironda.
Vince Gironda. Now, you said very specifically there that bodybuilding is the beginning of a way of life. So I've often talked about this with the Liminal Order. We tell guys saving the world starts in the squat rack, right? And the very first thing that we put in front of guys is a set of fitness standards. And we ask everybody to work towards the fitness standards, adhere to them. Strength, conditioning, mobility, outside time, meditation, thoughtfulness, even blood work. We've got a heart surgeon inside the LO that's created a blood panel for us to test our metabolic health. So we're very serious about this, and we believe that it is the beginning of a lifestyle. So can you tell me what you see as the connection between bodybuilding, lifestyle, aesthetics, culture, politics? Let's begin down that path.
Sure. So, well, basically, I mean, I suppose most people, when they think of bodybuilding, just think of sort of extremely vain men building their muscles, looking at themselves in the mirror, devoting their entire lives to building muscle. Bodybuilding is a way of life, but to many people, it's a way of life that is probably incomprehensible and unattractive. I think, when you think that most bodybuilders, just all they do is they work out and then they eat and they rest. So, I mean, my vision of bodybuilding is one in which, well, I suppose to quote the sort of the ancient Roman dictum, "Healthy mind in a healthy body." I don't think you can have one without the other. And I think that's a terrible mistake. That's a terrible mistake that intellectuals make, in particular, is thinking that you can have a wonderful the life of the mind supersedes the life of the body somehow. You can be a sort of withered wreck and have healthy thoughts. And I don't think that that's true. at all, in fact, and it's quite visible on Twitter, certain Twitter personalities, but that's another story. But I
Where
think
did that
that
come
I
from?
think.
Where did you get that idea from? Right, like I'm trying to dig into maybe sort of the classic or the antiquity or the base philosophical reasoning of why you think
Mm,
these things are connected, and it really echoes a lot of the stuff that comes out of BAP with like the Bugmen and
yeah.
and the Wojak meme and
Mm,
just soy boy meme. Like I think there's our part of the universe is really zeroing in on the the physical
mm,
manifestation of your politics, of your beliefs, of your spirituality,
yes.
etc. So can you give us like let's go back even deeper, man, because I read the magazine too. Like you're a deep thinker, you're a historical thinker, and there's some great stories in the magazine that I want to get to, especially a story about Clovis, for example. And so let's tie that all together. Like go back even deeper. Is this a religious thing? Is this a Aristotelian thing? Is this where for you is this beginning?
Uh, hmm. It's difficult to say exactly where it began. I mean, my my personal philosophy has arisen out of, I suppose, my life journey. I mean, I've always had a foot in both camps personally as a person. I've always been a thinker, but I've also always been an active person, and so to me, it's never made sense to separate the two. And yet, I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time at university, for instance, in the UK, where um, once you go up to higher study, graduate study, for instance, then the emphasis is very much just on the life of the mind. Um, uh, I think that I think it's difficult not to. I think it's difficult not to today to see just how closely linked together nutrition and lifestyle and political orientation are. I mean, get bring up all of the mugshots from the mostly peaceful protests of last summer, the mugshots, for instance, and you'll see that all of these people look the same. I mean, they're hideously ugly, malformed people. Um, once upon a time, I think the political divisions weren't so obvious from a sort of physiological or physiognomic point of view. You can look at Soviet propaganda from the 1950s, for instance, and what they're promoting is what you might call a healthy masculine ideal, physical fitness, rugged sort of masculinity. But that has totally evaporated now on the left, and now it very much is a case that the left is for a kind of dysgenic existence, and the right, and or some people on the right and some traditionalists uh, just have to be for a healthy physical lifestyle. I think it's that simple.
It really is. And, I was out in the streets during all the riots in Washington, D.C., and I've seen the protesters right up front, and I've seen the spiritual praise for obesity and ugliness and
Mm,
disgustingness. And I've seen it on the cover of Cosmopolitan magazine, which when I was a kid in the grocery store line with my mom at the checkout, I remember looking at those magazines with beautiful ladies and just thinking, wow, like it was intimidating, like how beautiful the women on the cover were when I was a child. And now they put absolutely disgusting fat whales on the cover and they say that you're healthy. And we have such a
mm,
prime example of the way the unhealthy lifestyle can damage your culture and politics and society with the lockdowns, because I know they were going to try the lockdowns anyway, but they had a really ready-made
mm.
excuse when all these fat and sick and people were dying. And so
Yeah.
all the deaths were overstated. Well, not overstated, but they maybe the deaths were enhanced. The comorbidity of obesity was there. So there's a direct connection between cherishing and promoting this unhealthy lifestyle. Being obese is okay. Being disgusting and ugly is okay. And that leads to a society that's able to be attacked and killed by a virus, and then leads to shutdowns and crashed economies and unemployment and inflation and just all kinds of crazy things that you can tie directly back to the fact that our country is disgustingly obese. We are an obese nation in so many different ways, both literally and metaphorically. And so
Yeah.
when I run into somebody like you, and run into somebody like BAP and run into the guys online that we hang out with like Cortez and all these guys, where we are cherishing, masculinity, masculine ideal, physical expression of your politics, culture, aesthetic, your values, your personal values. This is really important stuff. And your magazine and your book and the aesthetic and the movement, I think, fits in very well with the work that I'm doing. It fits in very well with the work in the sort of masculine sphere. And what's crazy to see lately is there are now senators, Josh Hawley in particular. Josh Hawley, I know you've been reading my timeline, dude, because all of a sudden we're talking about masculinity. I heard at the National Conservatism Conference a couple weeks ago in Orlando, he's talking about masculinity and the attack on masculinity. I wonder where he might have heard that. And then to see also J.D. Vance even talking about, quote, the lies of feminism. So it's starting to happen. It's starting to happen that these ideas that have been percolating up from niche corners of the internet are now making their way into our national political conversations.